একজন জয়েন করেছিলেন, উনি লেফট করে গেছেন। আমি অন করে আছি, অসুবিধা নেই কোনো। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, প্রথম দিকে ওনারা জয়েন করেছিলেন, রিজেক্ট হয়ে গেছে, অসুবিধা নেই। আমি এখন অন করে আছি, রিকোয়েস্ট আসলে অ্যাকসেপ্ট করে নেব, অসুবিধা নেই। আমি আপ টু ডেট আছি এখানে।
So here we go. Uh, how to write my CV is today's presentation. And the first thing that I would like to deal with is what is a CV? CV key. CV is an abbreviation of the Latin loanword curriculum vitae, which translates as the course of one's life. Therefore, a CV is a document in print or in digital format. কেন লাগে এই ডকুমেন্টটা, বা what does this document do? It presents an organized summary of a person's educational qualifications, relevant or necessary skills, and professional history. And to whom do it present this? To the prospective employer. So CV is this document যেটা একটা সামারি করে দেয়, একটা অর্গানাইজড সামারি প্রেজেন্ট করে প্রসপেক্টিভ এমপ্লয়ারকে আমাদের এডুকেশনাল কোয়ালিফিকেশন, নেসেসারি স্কিলস এবং প্রফেশনাল হিস্ট্রির প্রেজেন্টেশন হিসেবে। It is usually accompanied by a cover letter, and CV is also known as bio data, bio-data, or resume. Mainly in America, it's called resume. It's not resume, but resume. So, and you have pronunciation like this. So, next comes what is the purpose and need of a CV? আমাদের সিভিটা দরকার কেন? Why do we need the CV? The purpose of the CV is to get you an interview call. So this is the first thing that you have to keep in mind. যে সিভির কাজ হচ্ছে to fetch you, to get you an invitation to the interview. Right, so you get an interview call, you get to the interview room because of your CV. And here I write that it is not just to give information, but to present information. Now, this forms a very important part of it. শুধুমাত্র ইনফরমেশন দেওয়া নয়, ইনফরমেশনকে উপস্থাপন করা. You have to present the information in a particular way. And the one thing that is very important, I'd rather come to it again in the later part of my discussion, that when you present your CV to the employer, he forms an image of you in his or her mind. And it is very important for you to match yourself with that image. So write your CV in a way that the image that is formed, or the image that you in a way create or corroborate, is something to which you should actually match yourself up in the interview room. Okay, so what are the components of a CV? Let us briefly learn that generally a CV contains these words. কি কি থাকে CV এর মধ্যে? So a CV generally contains personal details. তাতে নাম, date of birth, current address, phone number, email ID, এগুলো প্রেজেন্ট করতে হয়। তাছাড়া education and training, the very important part. Your education and your training. Then you have your work history with proper duration. তুমি কোথায় কোথায় কাজ করেছো, তোমরা কোথায় কোথায় কাজ করেছো, এবং কবে কখন, the time frame is also very important. You list out your skills, what you know, what are your abilities, potentialities, competencies. You give your skills. You write off your awards and achievements, right? If you have any awards or achievements, something really important, and then you come to references where you refer to your teachers, or the person who is an eminent in the field and who will actually certify you. So we will come to this in greater details in a few minutes. Here is then the organizing principle, যে এইগুলো যে দেখলাম, এইগুলো কম্পোনেন্ট, এবার কোনটা কখন কিভাবে লিখবো, কোনটা আগে কোনটা পরে, এর কোনো নিয়ম কানুন কিছু আছে কি, কোনো অর্গানাইজিং প্রিন্সিপাল আছে কি? এবং প্রথম ডাউট যেটা আমাদের মধ্যে, আমাদের প্রথমেই মনে হয় আমরা যখন প্রথম সিভি লিখতে যাই, তোমরা যারা আন্ডার গ্রাজুয়েট পাস করে যাবে, এরপরে তোমরা প্রসপেক্টিভ জবস জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করবে, বা এরপরে আরো কিছু পড়ে তারপরে চেষ্টা করবে, তো প্রথমেই যখন সিভি লিখতে যাবে মনে হবে যে, এবং যদি ইন্টারনেটে সার্চ করে কিছু স্যাম্পলস দেখো, বা ইউ রিড সাম আদার সিভিজ, you will find two doubts, whether to put the experience first or the educational details first. কোনটা আগে দেব, এক্সপিরিয়েন্স গুলো আগে দেব, না আমাদের এডুকেশনাল ডিটেলসটা আগে দেব? তো আমরা যেহেতু we will appear as fresher, right? So we have to give our educational details first. And here I'd like to talk of a paper. It was published in 1994, long back, from Springer. The name of the paper is Impressions of Resume, published in the Journal of Business and Psychology. There they conducted a study, and there they came to this conclusion that there they talked of a principle called the compensation principle. What is this? You present the one you are strong at in the beginning, or you begin with that. এবং ওরা বলছে যে, if say you are applying for, as a fresher, you are applying for some position, you do not have work experience, so your work experience is something not very presentable, but you have a presentable scorecard, you have a presentable degree with you, so you give emphasis to that, and they say that the stronger area thereby compensates the weaker, and rather strengthens the weaker. And as you grow, as you evolve, as you change your jobs, as you get you update and upgrade yourself on this ladder, you get the required experience, and you become more strong in the process. So one thing that is very common in almost all CVs, apart from all these technical terms of organizing principle and things, is your clarity and your neatness. So clarity and neatness are the specific things that you need to maintain throughout your CV. ঠিক আছে, ক্ল্যারিটি এবং নিটনেস, এই দুটো হচ্ছে প্রধান, মানে প্রথম ক্রাইটেরিয়া, প্রধান বলবো না কিন্তু ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট, এক্সট্রিমলি ইম্পর্টেন্ট, how presentable your CV looks, and it should be very clear, very neat, right? So here once again I have you a backup from a 1989 book by John Mashur, and he writes that the name of the book is The Resume: How to Speak to Employers' Needs. And there he famously talks of a syllogism. And what is that? He says, দেখো চারটে পয়েন্ট উনি বলছেন, how he is connecting the first to the last. First point উনি বলছেন, the neat format is a clear format. It represents that the candidate is having a business-like mind. Secondly, business-like mind is something that will add value to the organization, that will add value to the company, to the employer. Thereby, the neat format will actually be very appealing to the employer. And ultimately, he says, drawing down to this syllogistic pattern, that neat format is more businessable. So businessable, marketable are the terms that we are going to use today. And we need to present ourselves so that we can get a better job. So our resume, our CV should be very neat and should bear clarity to to create the very first impression. Next, about the length. কতটা লিখব, কতগুলো পেজ লিখব। এইখানে যেটা মনে রাখতে হয় যে সিভি usually comprises a single page. It consists of a single page অথবা a couple of pages, মানে দুটো পেজ। বেশিরভাগ ক্ষেত্রে আমরা একটা পেজেই লেখার চেষ্টা করি, যদি একটা পেজ না হয় দুটো, কিন্তু একটা ইজ অলওয়েজ প্রেফারেবল, উইথ দি এক্সেপশন অফ একাডেমিক সিভিজ। কারণ একাডেমিক সিভির ক্ষেত্রে আমরা we list out, actually it's actually a list of all we have done, all the degrees that we had, all the things that we have achieved throughout. So the academic CV shares a sort of an exception, but generally a CV comprises of a single page or a couple of pages. And you look this specific term I'm using, reverse chronological order. What is this? The datas are presented in reverse chronological order. ক্রোনোলজিক্যাল শব্দের মানে হচ্ছে সময়ের নিরিখে প্রেজেন্ট করা, যেভাবে টাইম মুভ করছে সেভাবে তোমরা প্রেজেন্ট করছো। অর্থাৎ তোমরা 2017 মাধ্যমিক পাশ করেছো, 19 উচ্চ মাধ্যমিক পাশ করেছো, 22 তোমাদের গ্রাজুয়েশন কমপ্লিট হয়ে যাচ্ছে, এই যে প্যাটার্নটা, তাহলে 17, 19, 22, if you write in this format, it is the chronological order. If you write the reverse of it, you write your graduation first, then you write your class 2 উচ্চ মাধ্যমিক, then you write your class 10 madhyamik. So this is the reverse chronological order. But what is very important is this particular term, dates. সময়ে কখন কোনটা করেছো, এই সময়টা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। The dates are very important in the CV. Why? So I write 3 nodal words for it. One is, so the purpose is to ascertain something. What the dates will ascertain? Number one, it will ascertain and quantify the evolution and retention of productivity. আমরা যারা কাজ করছি, পড়ছি, তারপর আস্তে আস্তে কিছু একটা করছি, এই যে মুভমেন্টটা, এখানে হাউ প্রোডাক্টিভলি উই আর ডুইং ইট, এইটা এখানে প্রোডাক্টিভিটির মধ্যে কোনো এভলিউশন হয়েছে কিনা, কোনো গ্রেডেশন হয়েছে, কোনো আপগ্রেডেশন হয়েছে কিনা, প্রোডাক্টিভিটিটা অ্যাটলিস্ট আপগ্রেডেশন না হলেও ধরে রাখা গেছে কিনা, নাকি কোনো ডাউনফল হচ্ছে, এই পুরোটা বোঝা যাবে ডেটস দিয়ে। এবং এই শব্দটা মনে রাখো, কোয়ান্টিফাই, আই উইল কাম এগেইন অন দিস ওয়ার্ড লেটার। So it's just a sort of a word play. That evolution মানে হচ্ছে, the upliftment or a sort of change that happens. So biborton we usually call, but not a total evolution in that sense, but evolution here is you upgrading and updating yourself. So your evolution will lead to your evaluation. What is evaluation? Evaluation is judging your abilities. For example, when you write your answers, we evaluate your paper. So it's evaluation, which will finally lead to your valuation, right? So primarily I am talking, keeping in mind the private sector, we applying for jobs in private sector. And this is how, and in the world of globalization, we everything is tends to getting more private. So, and it's also something that is very important, it gives you more opportunities as well, more scope, uh, more challenging work experience. So anyway, your evolution gets you evaluated, and finally you get a value. So next, this is the format of the CV. I'm just zooming out for a moment to show you the entire thing. So I hope this is visible, right? So yes, this is in a way the pattern, the format which you can use to present your CV. It's written curriculum vitae. Then you have, first of all, you have to write your name. Then first of all, you look into the format, into the neatness of it. It's very much symmetrically arranged. All these columns are properly arranged. The chart is properly arranged. You look that the gap is, yes, is symmetrical from all the sides. So you have to be very much symmetrical first of all. Next, you have to write your name. You give your name. then you give your date of birth, then you give your telephone number. Now in telephone number you have to be you have to remember that you have to use it's advisable that you use a specific telephone number for these purposes. So we, nowadays are in the habit of changing our phone numbers time and again. So it's better we stick to one for the official, formal, professional purposes, right? So you stick to one for that, and the rest, your personal number you can change or vary. But for an official, formal purpose, you stick to one phone number. Also, also say some of you have already you've got job in a private company, and the company has provided you their own telephone number for the purpose of business calls and business transactions. So it will be advisable that you should not use that phone number in your CV. Similarly, it goes for the email ID. You have to present the name, the ID should look very professional. Don't write it, anything and everything on your email ID. For example, we find it very fancy named email IDs. When we get the, say you submit your assignments to the department, তখন তোমরা এটা করো, সুতরাং you maintain a very professional looking, very neat email ID, just bearing your name or some details, and then you present it here. Then comes the most important part for us right now as freshers, the academic qualifications. কি লিখতে হবে এখানে? First of all, you have to give your examination. কি পরীক্ষা দিলে? ধরে নাও you are writing it in the chronological order, so you write your madhyamik first here. Then you give the name of the board. এখান থেকে তোমরা যে বোর্ড থেকে পাস করেছো, ওয়েস্ট বেঙ্গল বোর্ড হলো, ফর এক্সাম্পল সিবিএসই হলো, সিআইএসসিই হলো, এগুলো তোমরা দিলে। তারপরে সাবজেক্টস, তোমাদের যে বেস্ট 5 সাবজেক্টস সেটা লিস্ট আউট করলে এখানে কি কি সাবজেক্ট লিখছো। ইয়ার মিনস দ্য ইয়ার অফ পাসিং, কোন বছর পাস করেছো সেটা লিখলে। Percentage of marks, কত পেয়েছো, percentage of marks সেটা দেখলে, because nowadays division is not that important. We have shift, or we have made a shift to percentage, so you write your percentage, then you write distinction. কারণ দেখো, এই মুহূর্তে as a fresher we are applying where we do not have much other credentials, so your distinction, if any, are very important for that matter, right? So what I also wish to tell you, that you have already crossed your madhyamik, uccha madhyamik, you're about to cross your graduation, but you still have your post graduation. So you read whatever you are reading very carefully and try to give your best. What is this distinction? Say you have secured a position, not just in the school, সেটা লিখে লাভ নেই, that I stood first in my school, that would not be the point. You've got a position, say in West Bengal, or for CISCE, a Council for Indian School Certificate Examination, you have taken your 10 ICSE and 12 ISC. So there, say some of you have stood, say you have got a rank in India, so you write that in distinction. Similarly, in your graduation, তোমরা যদি একই জিনিস লিখবে, এবং if you get a position in your university, you write that. Next comes your experience. For the experience, you have to always write it in the reverse chronological order. Experience-টা কিন্তু সমস্ত ক্ষেত্রে reverse chronological order-ই হবে. Here you have a choice, এখানে দু রকমই লিখতে পারো, কিন্তু there in the experience section you do not have a choice, কোনো choice নেই, তোমাকে reverse chronological order-ই লিখতে হবে. That looks professional, right? That looks professional. You can write anything, but that looks professional. That is something that is professionally accepted. অর্থাৎ তোমার প্রেজেন্ট এমপ্লয়মেন্ট তোমাদেরকে সবার আগে প্রেজেন্ট করতে হবে। ইউ রাইট দি প্রেজেন্ট এমপ্লয়মেন্ট ফার্স্ট, যেখানে এখন কাজ করছি, ইউ গিভ দ্য ডিউরেশন, you say I'm working from 2018 to present, and then you write off if you have any previous employment, then you write the history, and so on and so forth. বোঝা গেল? Skills are all the important extra abilities that you have. তোমরা কি করতে চাইছো, যে মানে যে জবের জন্য যাচ্ছ তার জন্য যে রিকোয়ার্ড স্কিলস গুলো, ধরো ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু বিকাম আ টিচার, so today you need to have certain skills, like you need to handle the computer, you need to be very good at the word processing systems, uh, you need to create something there on the screen, like sort of presentations. These are things that you need, right? এবং for example you want to become an editor of, say, of a journal, so there you need to have a very strong understanding of the softwares used and things like that. So you might have also, for example, you will be also working on the illustration part, so you need to have a background knowledge on Adobe Photoshop as well, or things like that, or softwares like that. So you give your skills, but I would recommend you that you give your skills in a graphical format. Let me remind you of this. You can, this is the tabular format, আমরা টেবিল করে প্রেজেন্ট করছি, এটাকেই আমরা বুলেট পয়েন্ট ওয়াইজে প্রেজেন্ট করতে পারতাম। ইউ হ্যাভ টু অপশনস। স্কিলস এর ক্ষেত্রে লিখে দিতে পারো যে আমি এটা 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 জানি, কিন্তু আই উড রাদার ask you, I'd rather invite you to use the graphical format. You give a graph of it. What do I mean by the graphical format? I'll show you just a minute. I'm coming to that. Before that, we have the languages. Languages, we are well aware of that. We know 2 or 3 languages: Bangla, Ingreji, Hindi. এগুলোই আমরা লিখি। It is always advisable that you learn one more foreign language এগুলো বাদে। মানে এই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজগুলো জানো, এটা ছাড়াও আরো একটা এক্সট্রা ফরেন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজও শিখে রাখা ভালো, apart from English, because many times that comes very useful, and that also will give you an edge, primarily if you go to companies, and there you also get the work of translation. So not only translation as an academic activity, but also as sort of translation over business calls. You get to attend clients from different countries, so you can have this as well. Then comes your achievements, where, as I mentioned, that you have to write about the specific important achievements. You have won, say, a district level prize in sports, you can mention that. You have played at the national level, or you have achieved something at the national level, you have got a prize from somewhere at the national or international level, you can write your achievement. But also you have to be very cautious about it, that don't give information that is not relevant to the position you are applying for. যে চাকরির জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করছো সেটার সাথে সামঞ্জস্য রেখেই অ্যাচিভমেন্টের কথাগুলো লিখো। সবই লিখে দেওয়ার দরকার নেই, বা you stood first in this competition, or you stood first in drawing in your school. This would not be that thing. You have to give data's important that have more validity. I'm not telling that those data are not valid, they are very important, but for a professional CV, that is something that is the initial stepping stone. The thing that you got in your schools are very important. It has boosted your morale, it has boosted your abilities, your skills, and then you have to pursue a sort of a professional achievement, right? And then finally comes the references, where once again you have to you know uh, write the name of your teacher, the headmaster of your school, or your professor who would rather certify you. এবং এখানে যেটা হবে সেটা হচ্ছে you take their permission before you write their names on the CV, right? So you ask them that, sir or madam, could be please send your name as a reference or a referee to this particular or in this particular CV, and the company might ask them for a sort of a certification or validation of your credentials, or say you might ask them that how was you as a student, what were your achievements, and things like that. So first take their permission, and also give their name, designation, email ID, and phone number. Then we come to specific jobs, and also since this is also a part of the career counseling, so I try to give you some advices, and also some different approaches to how we can look at these jobs. So first is coming the teaching in schools, and there I have 2 categories: the primary and upper primary schools, and then we will come to the secondary school. এই মুহূর্তে দাঁড়িয়ে what you have a bachelor degree, right? You will create your graduation, so you will have a bachelor degree, BA, BSc, BCom, and after that what you need is a bachelor or a diploma in education. You need a B.Ed or you need a D.El.Ed accordingly. So in your CV, when you are giving a CV, say for a private school, you would keep this, you would write this. But remember that this is not only what you are presenting, but this is also the very basic eligibility criteria. You need these degrees to appear, so you are presenting nothing more, something that is already there. So what could save you, or what could draw or give you a sort of an edge in these conditions, are first your scores. So in these cases, in a privatization mode of thinking, your scores thereby becomes important, just to get you the interview call. The real game begins in the interview hall, but initially your score thereby becomes important. Next, here are some ideas. How will you add an edge to it? These were the eligibility, তাই না? এগুলো তো সবার কাছেই থাকছে। All will have your graduation, all will have the other degree, the B.Ed or the D.El.Ed. So how you are more fit, you're more fitting for the position offered. First is you get a CPD. What is a CPD? At a CPD certification দরকার। সেটা কি? তার ফুল ফর্ম হচ্ছে Continuing Professional Development Certification. A continuing professional development certificationটা দরকার হয় in order to show, in order to not show, in order to uh, what is it this actually, let me define it first. So this actually helps the individual to regularly focus on how they can become more competent and effective professionals. So this in a way will help you to become more competent and effective professional. So these are professional courses. এরপরে আমরা চলে এলাম professional course. You get a continuing professional development certificate. Example, ধরো with the pandemic, there are many losses, there are many, we all look into the negative sides of it, and yes, it is negative, but it has given you one opportunity that you can now learn the blended and online teaching methods, right? So you can pursue a course on this. This has now become an inevitable part of our education system. So now if you have a degree on this, a sort of a certificate on this, you get an extra edge in your interview. Let me show you an example. এটা কিরকম হতে পারে? So I think it is visible to you. I would not be able to name all the things because it would look a sort of a promoting this particular universities, brands and companies. But anyway, is the screen visible to you? Are you getting this blended and online learning design
Yes,
thing?
sir.
Okay, thank you. So this is the course that, this is a sort of a course. This is just an example. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just showing you যে এটা করা যেতে পারে, এই রকম কিছু খুঁজতে শুরু করো আস্তে আস্তে। Blended and online learning design. You get the duration, it's just a 3-week course. You get weekly 4 hours of class. You get, it would be 100% online. You have the payment, you have things like that, and you get what you will learn. Develop the skills you need to teach blended and online learning. See what's possible with digital technologies and online learning methods. So now we begin to explore, right? This is the skill-based education that now we talk of. Optimize both blended and online learning methods for your students, so you learn all these things. Okay, so yeah, here we are. Then you can say, you can learn, you can have a certification on mental health of children. You learn something about that, because in you open the newspaper, you find that this is becoming very rampant. This is coming to this is becoming evident that আজকের দিনে ছেলেমেয়েরা দীর্ঘদিন স্কুলে যেতে না পেরে, they are having psychological issues. The young ones, the toddlers, they're all facing certain psychological issues. So what if you know how to deal with it? Right? What if the teacher is a better counselor? Right? You solve the problem for the students. The teacher is actually, in this definition, becomes a sort of a problem solver. He shows you the path to solve your problem. So in a way, if you have that ability, you will better understand your student. কেউ পড়ছে না কেন, জাস্ট লুকিং অ্যাট দি কম্পিউটার স্ক্রিন, রাইট? যেরকম এখন তোমরা কম্পিউটার স্ক্রিন দেখছো, আস্তে আস্তে বোরিং লাগতে শুরু করছে। এই যেটা হচ্ছে, দিস ইজ সামথিং দ্যাট হ্যাপেন্স ন্যাচুরাল, দিস ইজ ভেরি ন্যাচুরাল, দ্যাট হ্যাপেন্স টু অল অফ আস। সো if you have an idea of how to deal with it, you better help the student, help the school, help the organization. After all, you help learning. So this you can do. Another thing, you can have a research led teaching approaches. There are certain methods of teaching, specific. People are doing research on this, they are coming and developing. So কিছুটা আমাদের সেটা জানা উচিত, সব স্তরেই জানা উচিত। তো এটাও আমি একটা তোমাদের এক্সাম্পল দেখাই। This, you find this, there is the name of the university, I'm not promoting, educational neuroscience research led teaching approaches. এবারে বলবে আমি বিকম পড়েছি স্যার, আমার নিউরোসায়েন্সের কি দরকার, বা আমি বিএ পড়ছি in say political science, so why do I need to know about neuroscience? It's actually a very basic preliminary course. It's not about anything that scientific or that dense in scientific theories. You once again get all those data, and the reason why I mentioned is, you see that how improve your understanding of learning and memory formation. Discover how to maximize students' learning in the classroom as we examine leading edge research into neuroplasticity. So you learn about memory formation, right? In India, yet and still, we very much rely on the importance of memory, right? Our systems are very much dependent on how we can retain information more. So memory forms a very, and it is important as well to some extent. It is really important. You have to have an access to all the basics in your brain. Otherwise, every time you need to open your book or search the internet, that would not do. So for the toddlers, you learn this, you present this in your CV, you get an extra edge. এবং শুধু এটা সার্টিফিকেটটা থাকলেই হবে না, you have to be actually learned in this, right? Okay. Next, you can do a diploma or certificate in LT, means language teaching. I'm using short forms so that you can at least remember some of them, CPD, LT, কিছুটা যদি মনে থাকে আর কি, সেই জন্য। সো যদি তোমরা কেউ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ টিচিং এর পার্ট হও, ইংরেজি, বাংলা, সংস্কৃত, whatever, so you can opt for this. Ingreji and Bangla will be there for the primary and upper primary students. You can also have a course on teaching the toddlers. There is a particular course, I'm just showing you, but I'm not telling you to do this, just giving you a hint. So let this site open first. Yes, it is. So here you see, you get the information, everything that makes you a brilliant English teacher to teach toddlers as a second language. So teaching English as a second language to a specific group of students, the toddlers. So you look into all this, and also you look into the authenticity of the site, online, offline, how they are paying, whether the certificate is valid or not. You look into all this, and then you do this sort of courses. Similarly, we have the higher secondary school. You have your bachelor's degree, you have your master's, and you have a bachelor in education, that is your B.Ed. These are your credentials, these are your score keys, these are your educational qualifications. You have to show your distinctions and marks, but at the same time, these are just your eligibility. So what more? You can have a PGC or a PGD, that is postgraduate certificate or a postgraduate diploma in language teaching, right? This is, a very reputed university offers this. I'm just telling you once again, I'm not branding it. So I think you all know of it. So it's there. You see the names. So there you can look into these sort of details and how they offer these sort of courses, uh, things like that. So this is actually a very important and necessary course. So you can pursue this. You can pursue this. Okay, and this is there, in from India. It's a very reputed university in language and teaching. So you can do this postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma, especially for the language teachers. Once again, you can do a course on blended mode, you can do a course on child psychology and mental health, you can do Diksha courses. These are now specific courses, these are designed by the government of India. So say you open this, uh, yes, so you have it stands Diksha stands for digital infrastructure of school education. And say I choose the ICSE, the board. Not ICSE is nothing there, CBSE. You look into the courses there. Say you learn a course on experimental learning courses, there are artificial intelligence courses, science challenges, heritage India quiz. So these are all specific courses from social science, from science, from training, things like that. So you can do this, you can have an edge. Also you need to have your CTET certificate, that's also something where you qualify an exam. So these adds to your thing. You can also mention a bit of a seminar, say, but this would not get a very much validity in terms of your school teaching. But one or two you can mention, very specific and very uh, relevant. Say you have participated in a seminar on challenges of teaching, and say there you have presented a paper on problems of teaching, say a particular subject in particular section. So you can mention that as well, and use this sort of words. You author the paper instead of just listing down the paper. You write these terms that creates a sort of more impression of you upon the prospective employer. But if in the interview room he asks questions, he or she asks questions from this, you need to be able to answer them very skillfully and to the satisfaction. Anyway, next comes the editorial jobs. If any one of you want to do the editorial jobs, let me give you a hint of what we can do. What are the things that we actually need, so that you can you upgrade yourself in this path. First of all, you need editorial internships. You open the website of any reputed publishing house of India. You will get a column or you will get an email ID where they will ask you to send your CV for editorial internships. So you have to do this first. It's there in OUP, Oxford, University Press. It's there in HarperCollins. There in Penguin Random Press. Almost all the popular and reputed publishing houses have this position. You try for them. Also, the less known houses are also there. So you first begin with that. You have to work with creative agencies. Now they have defined creative agencies, so you look into which creative agency will actually help you giving a certificate that is valid. Then you start as a freelancer, and then you upgrade your both freelancing skill and the freelancing profile. How will you do that? By associating with reputed names. So say you have done a work with a very big brand, a newspaper or a newspaper brand, or that of a book publishing company. So then you get something to be more marketable. You'll have to learn marketing skills, because publishing is also leading to this. So you have to be very good at the other part of it as well. Not only you have to be very good in the language skills, but also the marketing skills. And then say finally you become an assistant editor of a journal, and then you ascend the ladder. And just giving you the responsibilities and the requirements that are there in this particular job criteria. You need first of all a MA or an MSc in the respective subject. So why MSc or MCom? Because the random houses, this publishing houses, they also have very specific textbooks. So they also need editors. The last day I was looking into the Oxford University Press internship for you, and there I found that they're also, it's not just for the English graduate students or English postgraduate students, but for also the science and the commerce and uh, other stream students. You obviously need to have a good academic record. So from now try to be more attentive, because you cannot amend the past, you cannot, increase the marks of your past achievements, but from now onward you can try your best. That's important. You have to work on your communication and oratory skills, because they will need you to talk to phone over people, to the vendors, and you need to also have this writing and language skill. So you look what are the responsibilities that you will have, এই রেসপন্সিবিলিটি গুলোর ধারণাগুলো পরিষ্কার থাকলে তোমাদের কিভাবে কাজ করবে, কি কি করবে, কিভাবে নিজের প্রোফাইল তৈরি করবে, কিভাবে নিজের পড়াটাকে ফ্রেম করবে। ইয়োর ক্যারিয়ার ইজ জাস্ট সর্ট অফ আ ফ্রেমিং, আ চার্টিং আউট, তাই না? কাগজ কলম নিয়ে বসেই করাটা ভালো। সো ইউ ডু দ্যাট। এডিটিং হবে, প্রুফ রিডিং হবে, কমিউনিকেটিং টু ভেন্ডার্স থাকবে, লেসন প্ল্যান, ক্রিয়েটিভ প্ল্যানিং, ডিজাইনিং, মার্কেটিং, এইগুলো তোমার কাজ। তাহলে এই কাজগুলো তুমি বললে আমি করতে পারি, সেটা বললে তো হবে না, তোমাকে এর স্পেসিফিক এরিয়া দেখাতে হবে যে আমি এইটা করেছি, আই হ্যাভ দিস সার্টিফিকেট, আই হ্যাভ ওয়ার্ক দেয়ার এজ এ ফ্রিল্যান্সার, আই হ্যাভ ওয়ার্ক দেয়ার উইথ মাই ইন্টার্নশিপ, I have written a poem and it has got published in a very reputed work, in a very reputed journal or a reputed collection anthology. So that gives you more importance, right? You can be a creative writer. So this is how these things work. স্কিলস, যেটা গ্রাফিক্যাল স্কিলের কথা বলেছিলাম, সেটা হচ্ছে এই জিনিসটা, এই যে। Yeah, so I got disconnected. It happens sometimes, but I think it would get connected later. So you give me a minute or two before my screen turns up. But meanwhile, let me speak what I was speaking of. I was speaking of the skills. Right. স্কিল গুলোকে তোমাদের স্পেসিফিক্যালি কোয়ান্টিফাই করে দিতে হবে, যে আমি এই স্কিল আমার আছে, এই জিনিস আমি করতে পারি, এবং সেটার জন্য আমি এই সেটাকে আমি প্রেজেন্ট করছি এইভাবে। সুতরাং ইউ ডু দিস, you present the skills in this sort of a quantifiable format. And you just give me one more minute so that I let me arrange for the screen presentation. You just give me a minute.